Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Ben Vicarage on this Wednesday morning. Lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us for our Bible reflection today as we continue our adventure through the adventure, and really is an adventure, isn't it, through the incredible book of Genesis. And today we're in chapter 20. Yesterday we heard about Lot and the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. This time we go back to Abraham again now, and we'll pick up the story at chapter 20. So without further ado, here we go. From there, Abraham journeyed toward the region of the Negeb and settled between Kadesh and Shur. While residing in Gerar as an alien, Abraham said of his wife Sarah, "She is my sister." And King Abimelech of Gerar sent and took Sarah. But God came to Abimelech in a dream by night and said to him, "You are about to die because of the woman you have taken, for she is a married woman." Now Abimelech had not approached her, so he said, "Lord, will you destroy an innocent people? Did you not say to me, 'She is my sister'?" And she herself said, "He is my brother. I did this in the integrity of my heart and the innocence of my hands." Then God said to him in a dream, "Yes, I know that you did this in the integrity of your heart. Furthermore, it was I who kept you from sinning against me. Therefore, I did not let you touch her. Now then, return the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you shall live. But if you do not restore her, know that you shall surely die, you and all that are yours." So Abimelech rose early in the morning and called all his servants and told them of all these things, and the men were very much afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham and said to him, What have you done to us? How have I sinned against you that you have brought such guilt on me and my kingdom? You have done things to me that ought not to be done." And Abimelech said to Abraham, "Why were you thinking of that? What were you thinking of that you did this thing?" Abraham said, "I did it because I thought, there's no fear of God at all in this place, and they will kill me because of my wife. Besides, she is indeed my sister, the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife. And when God caused me to wander from my father's house, I said to her, 'This is the kindness you must do to me. At every place to which we come, say of me, he is my brother.' And Abimelech took sheep and oxen, male and female slaves, and gave them to Abraham, and restored his wife Sarah to him. Abimelech said, 'My land is before you, settle where it pleases you.' To Sarah he said, 'Look, I've given your brother 1,000 pieces of silver. Is your exoneration before all who are with you? You are completely vindicated.' Then Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech, and also healed his wife and female slaves, so that they bore children. For the Lord had closed fast all the wombs of the house of Abimelech because of Sarah, Abraham's wife." This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Okay, an intriguing story, this one. Another intriguing story. Abraham goes to Egypt. We don't know why. Goes towards down there. We don't know why. Usually in the Bible, going to Egypt is code for kind of going to a place because it's a bit kind of convenient, but it always ends up bad in the end. It's kind of what it seems to be sort of code for in the Bible. That's what seems to happen anyway. And they go down there to the place called the Negeb, which is between kind of Israel and Egypt. And while they're down there, Abraham's frightened, so he's a bit worried that the people around there are a bit ruthless and a bit godless and a bit sinful down there, so they might kill him to try and get his wife. So what he did, they kind of pretend that Sarah is his sister. Although ironically, she was actually his half-sister, it would appear, so it wasn't a complete lie, but kind of, she said to Sarah, pretend you're not my wife, and, and therefore I'll be all right. So she goes down there, and of course the king Abimelech sees that Sarah is a beautiful woman. Interesting, she must have been late 80s, probably somewhere between the 80s and 90s at this stage, so well done, Sarah. But in the thing that she's a beautiful woman, despite being in her 80s and 90s, she and Abraham come up with this plan, pretend that Abraham and her are brother and sister, therefore he won't get killed, and she joins Abimelech's harem. God, of course, is at work in all this, and this isn't right. So God's about to sort of do things about to go bad for Abimelech, because Abimelech's about to become a naughty man, having another man's wife. But God kind of intervenes here and gives Abimelech a dream and sort of says, "What do you think you're doing? This woman you've taken into your harem here, she's actually Abraham's wife, and he's a prophet, so watch out. He's one of mine, so watch out." And and Abimelech gets warned. Abimelech kind of sees what's going on, responds to the dream, gives Sarah back to Abraham, and the rest, as they say, is history. And read it at your leisure. I mean, it's a fascinating read here. But I suppose it's quite difficult to sort of learn from it. But I think there are three things I'd want to say here. Firstly, again, about Abraham. Abraham was a tremendous man of faith. Abraham was known as a towering figure of faith. He's known through the Bible as being a figure of faith, as being a great man of faith. Now, he trusted God. And through his life, he set out when God told him to do. And he really was a man of great faith. But he was by no means a perfect character. And there were times when he showed great faith, and there were times when he really didn't. And bear in mind, this is not the first time, of course, that he's gone to Egypt and pretended Sarah wasn't his wife to kind of keep himself, protect himself, which makes him a terrible husband, I have to say. But there we go. It's not the first time it happened. And so I guess I want us to see here that Abraham was a great man of faith, but also not by no means perfect. And like for all of us, he had great faith in some parts of his life, but clearly not great faith in others. And he was quite capable, like we all, of giving God a helping hand. God makes promises, and kind of we'll get a bit impatient, so we'll give God a hand. And he was quite capable of trickery as well, to try and get, as I say, spur God into action, you might say. And here we have an example of Abraham and his trickery. So Abraham was, as I say, a great man of faith, but Abraham was also had this. I think this is the character flaw as well. There were times when he didn't show faith. There were times when he wasn't above giving God a hand, and there were times when he didn't trust God, and as I say, took the law into his own hands, you might say. So I think that's the first thing, is that, as I say, Abraham was a great man of faith, but sometimes he wasn't. And I just think, in a sense, the only person that's ever been completely faithful is Jesus. I think it means that there's hope for all of us. And I think we all need to see sometimes what are those areas of our lives when we're faithful, and what are those areas of our lives when we're not, and actually hear from God on those things. I guess if I was Abraham's spiritual director, I'd be talking to him about that now. That's the first thing. Second thing is, despite Abraham's trickery, notice here the providence and the protection of God. That Abimelech, we don't know how good a king he was, but actually he was righteous in the end. He wasn't officially a godly person as such, but when he found out what was going on, actually Abimelech did something about it. Abimelech had that dream from God, that warning from God. Abimelech responded, gave Sarah back with some reparations as well. So actually, see here that God protected Abimelech from being in a situation that he shouldn't have been in. God protected Abraham, if you like, you might say, from doing something stupid. And Abraham protected Sarah. In the end, she came out all right, and she wasn't violated, so to speak. So see through all this, that despite Abraham and Sarah's well, trickery, notice the protection of God, that God protected Abraham, that God protected Sarah, and God protected Abimelech as well. And actually, don't we often get, God saves us from ourselves? I think particularly, I love here the way that God protected Abimelech. Abimelech had done nothing wrong here. He'd be he'd fallen into a trap, and God protected him through it. That's the second thing. And I think the third thing that this I want to say is, you almost want to ask the question, why is chapter 20 in the Bible at all? It seems an odd story. What is there to learn from it? And it may be a conspiracy theory too far, but I wonder if it's almost saying, look, you may hear, to the people at the time especially, you may have heard rumours that Abraham and Sarah went to Egypt, and you may have heard rumours that she ended up in Abimelech's harem. But just to set the record straight, he didn't touch her, and when Isaac was born, Abraham really was his father. So, as I say, it could almost be a question of the Bible kind of reinforcing it, just in case you heard to the contrary, just in case you heard rumours that there might have been in Egypt, just in case you may have heard rumours that Sarah might have been in Abimelech's harem, just to set the record straight, he didn't touch her, and later on, the next chapter or whatever, when she becomes the father of Isaac, Abraham really was the dad. So, three things, especially in this reading. Firstly, see Abraham, this great man of faith, but sometimes not. And, just see his journey of faith here. And I guess it's saying that we all have to learn, and we learn through our lives. And actually these times can be gifts to us to learn those parts of our lives when we're faithful and those parts of our lives when we're not. And as I said, if I was Abraham's spiritual director, I'd be pointing to what his behaviour was in Egypt here. So that's the first thing. Secondly, notice God's providence and God's protection, that despite Abraham's trickery, Abraham and Sarah's trickery, God protected them, and God protected Abimelech as well from being set in this trap. And thirdly, to say that just in case there's any doubt, Abraham was the father of Isaac, Isaac was the father of Jacob, and the rest, as they say, is history. Just setting the record straight. Bless you, my friends. Have a lovely Wednesday. Enjoy the sunshine. Have a lovely day. God bless you. Thank you for watching. Do share this message